good news for the UK there. Things seem to be getting a little bit better.
Well, an easing of the lockdown, but not a huge easing of the lockdown immediately. Boris Johnson making it very clear in a televised national address that it would be madness, in his words, to rapidly pull away those social distancing measures that are in place. But they are being tweaked slightly as soon as this week. So, as you were saying, unlimited exercise, outdoor activities are allowed. We believe that people will be able to do things like play golf as long as they do so in a socially distanced way with whoever they are playing with, and they should be playing with someone from their household. We're also being told that Britons can, for example, drive to the beach to enjoy some outdoor time. But again, once they get there, they will need to maintain those social distancing regulations. But beyond that, not a huge amount is changing yet. You mentioned schools possibly reopening in June and parts of the hospitality industry in July. One area that there has been a shift overnight is that the Prime Minister and the government are now trying to encourage more people to go back to work if they can do it safely and with social distancing measures in place. So there are some businesses who've been closed throughout this lockdown period that the government believes actually could be open now if they can do so safely. So trying to encourage more people back to work before we start to see things like pubs, bars and restaurants reopening potentially, but not until much later in the British summer.
And I should imagine from an economic point of view it's been a disaster. I mean, I know it's a disaster across the globe, but I mean the country was just dealing with the fallout from Brexit when this happened.
Yes, I mean, Brexit is still on the agenda, of course. Britain has to work out a trade deal with the European Union through this year. I mean, at the same time, the UK economy was in a reasonably healthy place before all of this, effectively at full employment going into the coronavirus crisis. Where we are now is clearly a very different picture. One of the areas, for example, that people are talking about a lot today here in the UK is tourism and aviation, not least because part of the government's new roadmap contains this idea that international travellers in the UK at some point soon will now face a 2-week quarantine when they get here. Now, critics of the government say that should have been the case already. The government insists that actually when you have a large-scale outbreak spreading very quickly, that international travel doesn't have a huge amount of impact on it when not many people are travelling anyway. They say that as the infection rate comes down in the UK, that is the time to clamp down a little bit. Well, that's making a lot of people realise that the summer holidays many Britons had booked and were hoping they could go through with are simply not going to be realistic. If you head off to Europe or Africa or wherever else for a holiday and come back to the UK and have to go home for 2 weeks, that is not going to be realistic for many. So again, bad news for the aviation and the tourism sectors here in the UK in a similar way that has been the case in other parts of the world as well.
Let's leave it there. Olly, thank you.